Hey everyone, to whom it might cyberly concern, I am back in Mexico doing another video. I have some follow-ups that I've been asked to do, just to get an idea of where I'm at. Funny enough, it's the same building I stayed in last time here in Mexico. Not the ocean view, but it's just a room. All right, so I've had some questions asked in regards to some of my videos. I had someone, a coworker, actually watch them, funny enough, and write down some questions. So I'm gonna do my best to answer those for her now, and perhaps for all those who might have been cyberly curious, if you will. So like the first one, I talked about the Yucatan video and things like that, the pool, leaves, who's your pool boy, how life gets messy, that sort of thing. So the first question that they had was how to be more mindful of taking life as it is without getting caught up with taking it for granted. And I did talk about that. I did say don't take life for granted because things pass you by, because then we don't experience anything. Nothing comes from it. We just expect to have another day, another life. Not always the case. So what I mean, I guess how to elaborate that, a lot of these answers I can already feel are going to have, or these questions are all going to be based on awareness. If you lack awareness, then you're going to have problems realizing a lot of these things. Okay, so the question was how to be more mindful of taking life as it is without getting caught up in taking this for granted. What I said in the last video, if I recall correctly, is don't just take life for granted. Take it as it is and do something with it, right? Taking it for granted means it's, yeah, I've got an extra dollar, it's fine. Do something with it. Learn something, experience something. That would be someone being aware of not taking life for granted and doing something with that life. I think that's how it is. Awareness is really the answer to that question, how to be more mindful of taking life as it is without getting caught up with taking it for granted. Well, being mindful of it, you know. The minutia of daily life in America, so to speak, generally speaking, is a better example, which I always use. You get caught up in life and you just take it for granted. I got to work tomorrow. Everything else is kind of closed off. So we can be mindful that there's more outside of that. That maintaining routine that you have. That's the best answer I've got. Is can you be mindful of it? Can you be aware of it? Can you be aware, and can you change that awareness into application, doing something with it? Apparently they like the pool analogy. Who comes around and cleans our pools? I had said in a previous video that life gets messy. Think of your life as a pool. The wind blows, leaves fall in, it gets messy, and we realize that we don't tend to the pool of our life being much, our essence, you know. We ignore it and it gets dirty and it gets messy, and aka health problems, aka bad decisions, aka procrastination, things we didn't take care of, aka never tending to this, aka XYZ, right? If you ignore the pool, it's going to get messy, and then the daunting task of cleaning it later is going to be, wow, you're like, I don't even want to clean it, and there goes that pool. That pool just went to waste. Who comes around and cleans our pool was the real question. Well, you can find a life coach. You can find a good friend, a best friend, helps to maintain that pool with you, but keeping that pool, your life, clean and free and beautiful, blue and clear, and a life you want to enjoy, and a pool you want to get into and enjoy, I'm going to have to say it's yourself. You can find people to help you do it, but you need to be aware, again, that this is a thing. Your life has things fall into it, which can get messy, and if you don't tend to them and clean them up and keep it regularly, it will start to go foul. It will start to stagnate. Slippery slope. By doing so, though, you'll start taking life for granted and think, oh, I'll get to it later. There's procrastination just thrown all of a sudden in there. There's not tending to something. There's ignoring a problem, just all right there. Slippery slope down to that pool getting messy, and then you have this huge problem. So again, it's awareness. I mean, question 2, the answer is awareness. Funny enough, a lot of these might have awareness as the root of the problem. Can you exercise your awareness? Can you make it stronger, right? Don't always just applaud the realizations you have, you've been working on. Look for the unknowns. I think that's the real key, looking for more unknowns. So it looks like the next question they had for me is, why is it so hard to adapt to changes instead of taking negatives as they are? It's hard to adapt to changes because we're creatures of comfort. I mean, I think we can all mostly agree with that. We love our routine. We're comfortable. There's no ups and downs necessarily, like big ups and downs anyway. There's little ones, oh, I ran out of gas, I didn't get gas. That's a small down, and I can't get to work, I'm gonna be late. I've got to stop and get gas now because I didn't fill up when I known I should have, right? That's a small up and down. We're talking mostly about the big up and downs, right? The big negatives, the big positives. Most of them, I think, are going to be internal self-realizations, self-growth, introspective, coming to terms with things. This is who I am. This is what I think. This is how I think. But can we change that? Can we question that? Can we be aware that even that stands to be criticized, currently how we are? So again, awareness. Can we be aware that we are creatures of comfort and we like our routines. We like them. So that's how we can prepare ourselves for negatives, because some of the realizations that we come across that hit us like a brick wall or hit that sort of thing, in fact, can be negative. But can we be aware that that's part of life? I think that would be the best answer to that question, because change is hard. Change is hard. It's uncomfortable. Change can be seen as a negative right away as you are confronted with it. It seems as a negative. Well, don't see it as a negative. Think of that negative as a change instead. Change has a lesser connotative, faux pas, if you will. Negative versus positive. They're very black and white, right? If you think of the change as a negative, then you're not going to take it very well. If you think of it more of as a change instead of a negative occurrence, you might deal with it better. It's all about how we label things and how we language things, Believe it or not, words have connotations, and negative doesn't come as bad. Our negative comes really, really bad, right? It has a bad connotation. It comes with all these, negative, bullet points, whereas a change is just a change. Moving, it could be seen negative, but it's a change. It can come with positives. Most changes come with positives anyway, right? You can't have a negative without a positive, I imagine. It's the part of life. Something else that they asked, why do I think it's easy to ignore our misfortunes? I think for coping reasons, we ignore them. Once we're confronted with them, we ignore them. We may not have addressed them, but we do ignore them just to feel better. Again, we're creatures of comfort. We want a homeostatic state of mind, homeostatic state of mind. We want to always maintain that. It's our compromised bliss. We can't be at complete bliss. We have things going on, right? We're always worried about something. We're always thinking something. So at least by ignoring it, that's the closest we can get to that middle homeostatic bliss, if you will. So that's why we ignore them. But again, ignoring those misfortunes would be akin to a pool incident, Mind the pool. Keep it clean. Don't ignore them. Why do you think lower income leads to high poverty in country areas take life good or bad with so much grace despite the misfortunes? I remember talking about the video that I said that even people who might have a hard time making ends meet day by day, but still going on, still with a good positive attitude, a social, welcoming one no less, I think the reason for that is there's a certain realization that their primal and basic modern needs are being met. Home, a roof over your head, food, friends, family, the necessities, clothes on your back. I think those type of necessities in a modern sense are being met by these people. They're meeting them anyway, given the low income the low income issue they may have, right? I mentioned that in that one video too, when I said something about, these people appear to have a hard time. You can see that they can struggle. You talk to some people and you hear their struggles. They may sound very simple to someone as an outsider, but you realize that they're doing the best they can and they're still happy about it. So I think what they're not doing is ignoring their misfortune. They're taking it for what it is. It actually is. If you confront it, then you're able to address it. And again, keeping that pool clean and a process and a maintenance of life. It's the maintenance of that homeostatic median that I talked about just a moment ago. What I mean by homeostatic, bliss, if you will, is to maintain a level of happiness, contentment, satisfactory levels of joy from day to day. Whoever you meet, wherever you go, whatever you do, you're content. You're not always negative. and I gotta go to work. I gotta wash the car. See, we're seeing these changes. They're small micro changes day to day, but we're seeing these changes as negative when they should just be seen as changes and part of the life. These people, like I said, go about their day. They work hard, yet they struggle, but yet they're confident and proud enough that they've met their basic needs. And how can you not? Aside from that, I think the food down here in Mexico is amazing. I think a friend told me, if I'm not repeating myself, a friend told me, or he made an observation. How can people in Mexico go walking around mad? Like, how can you go around upset and bothered when the food is so amazing and you're constantly eating it? You're surrounded by amazing food. How on earth can you go around in a bad mood? I don't see it possible. There's some logic there, unless that one meal is bad. But for the most part, we all have our small bumps, like I said earlier, small lows and highs. But the food is always amazing, so you can't go around in a bad mood all the time. I think that's how these people do it. Food, and they've got this social network that just, it's an understanding that everyone's in a very similar situation. We're all working, let's stick together, so let's make life worth it, have a good time. And I think that's why they're taking each stride, despite how resistant modern constructs are pushing back at them. They still take these strides forward in improving with good strides, with good attitudes, and I think that's what makes it happen. The good food is a great fuel for this too. So that's how I think people are doing this despite the misfortunes in the modern world. What are more mindful ways to be more grateful without toxic positivity? How to be grateful? Well, you know what? I got a good example. My friend, my best friend, says things like this all the time, or does things like this, demonstrates things like this all the time. He'll say Happy Monday, Happy Wednesday. How often do we do that? We always say Happy Friday, but we never address the rest of the weeks. Why not? They should be just as happy. We should take those days in a positive direction and positive stride just as any other day. So that's one small micro example that we can do to be more grateful. Share that greatness or that grateful or that grace, if you will, and pay it forward. Forget paying it forward in the drive-through. I'm going to pay for the person's meal in front of me. Forget that. That's a nice thing. But I think if we're putting the social energy, if we're infusing the social energy with grace and paying it forward, I think it's much better. That's a better macro outcome, I think. That's just one way. Happy Friday, Happy Tuesday. Always say thank you. Things like that. Always greet, always acknowledge. Honest communication, of course, I think is the root of all this. That's what I would say. How to be more mindful of being grateful without toxic positivity. With that much positivity being paid forward constantly, cyclically even, it's hard for it to become toxic. You have to remove those pieces if something should happen, I think. Something else she asked me was, how do we not become anxious with the idea that life is unpredictable and nothing is guaranteed? How do we make ourselves more secure in the unknown? Well, again, there's probably an acceptance to this. How do we not become anxious with the unpredictability? These are probably the same questions, just kind of worded differently. How do we not become anxious with the unpredictable way of life because nothing is guaranteed? How do we ourselves become more secure in the unknown? Well, I think acceptance of the unknown. If you're afraid of it, then you're going to be anxious, right? Of course, there are things you cannot know right away. You're probably waiting on that new job you applied for. You don't know if you got hired or not, right? That's an unknown. It's a small one. It's not detrimental necessarily. But if you can be aware that until further notice, you're going to not know it, right? It's going to be unknown to you. Again, awareness. If you can be aware to this fact, you'll probably handle unknowns better, and you'll probably be more receptive when it comes to the unpredictability of it all, especially when things aren't guaranteed. You'll take it better. You'll take it more at ease. You won't be so struck, or you won't have an explosive reaction. You'll be like, okay, yeah, I knew that could be a possibility. Instead of being like, what? What do you mean I didn't get it? Or what do you mean that didn't happen? Well, you must have known it's a positivity, or a possibility, I should say. That's how we should take this question, I think. How do we become better about the unpredictability and unknown about our lives? Be aware that there are normally two possibilities to a situation you're looking at. You're either going to get the job or you're not, right? Don't ignore the possibility that you can't get it, and just focus on the possibility that you can. That's being unfair in thinking and rationale. you're already off to a bad start. Thinking about the situation fallaciously, you're in for a world of hurt. You need to be aware and accept the possibility that you may not get this job, or that X might not happen. Not just that X can happen. We do want to put some more positive energy in. We want A to happen, but be aware that, well, letter B, it may not happen. If we're just aware and accept the possibilities of the chance of life and the game of life, that's the way. We will better handle the truth of the possibilities if we're aware of them and accept them. That's how I feel about that one. I made my life my end tomorrow. While I'm aware of that fact, I don't like it. Doesn't mean I should ignore it. I should still go on living as best I can, but just be aware of it and accept that that's a possibility. I think that's all on this one. Oh, one more on this one. She's got some more. Wow, she's crazy. Crazy in a good way. In fact, it's not crazy. It's probably rational, right? At least they're thinking. Why can our energies, when we are in a place we call home and are familiar with, become stagnant? Not change as often as we would like. I think our energies become stagnant because our physical routine in this world, in this material world. And I'm sure she's talking about the energy that I talked to her before about, energy consents in people. Not their intentions, but how they're carrying on with you, their intentions. I think because of our stagnant nature, we can get caught up in ignoring our energies and feeding it, nourishing it, which my friend has a great topic on, nourishing energy, dietary needs for your energy, energetic nutrition. I mean, it's a whole topic we can expound on later, but it's a good one. Be aware that we do become very stagnant in our day-to-day minutia. And if we move it around and include things like a little vacation, travel, new people, new experiences, something new, it should keep the energy a little bit more invigorated. Never let it come to a not boil. You always want your energy to be, bubbling. Again, you need to be aware of it. Can you be aware that you're becoming depressed, or you're feeling what we call sadness? Can you be aware of that? And can you accept that you can do something about it? There's that kind of reference back to the first question about the unknown. Be aware that you can do something about it. Don't just focus on the bad and how you feel. Be aware that you can do something about it. You have the capacity and the capability to do something about it. Again, being aware of both outcomes, A and B. You can either stay sad or you can do something about it. Well, if you ignore that you can do something about it, guess what? You're going to stay sad. If you are aware of both, then you make a decision. And let's face it, we humans, we love decisions. This might not be such an illusion of decision, because I think this is pretty much cut and dry. Either you want to stay sad or you don't. Either you want to work at getting out of sadness, because it's not just the light switch you flip on sometimes. You have to work at it, change up the life. That's your energy being affected by what we call sadness. Change your life, do something, go to a friend's house, talk, seek a counselor, somebody, just change it up. We get too caught up in, like I said, the stagnant ways of our lives, and nothing changes. I hope I answered those questions pretty well. She also was nice enough to text me some more questions, like follow-up. And I've got to pull them up here so I can read them to you and see which... Woo! These are long ones. These might be a whole nother video. Why is it that when you find yourself or other people find themselves traveling alone, they tend to feel more lonely than they do at home? That one I think is relatively simple for me anyway. I do feel like I'm alone when I travel, but it's not a loneliness. And I think there's always been this debate, right? There's this grammatical debate versus what the difference between lonely and being alone. She uses the word lonely, and maybe that's the conflation between those two words, because to some people, to some grammarians, if you will, there's a difference between alone and being lonely. Being lonely is, I think what they say is you have no one in which to compart your energy with on a more intimate level. And being alone is just physically being alone, right? I think you can split hairs on it. I'm not sure how you'd want to do that, but that's how I see it. They find themselves alone, I think. Though the idea of lonely can creep in and blur the understanding of being alone, which is why I think they easily are conflated. Another one, she says, with silence, you start to speak with yourself instead of yourself in your head, kind of like your best future self talking to your past self. She's asking if that's the case. I think, let me see if I can clarify this question. I feel like she wants to know if when you talk to yourself alone, not like when you're nuts, but when you speak with yourself alone, are you reflecting on a previous person, a different version of yourself in the past? And I think, yes, to some degree we are talking, we're at least bringing that person forward and reviewing it and breaking it down and critiquing it, self-critique, to see if there's something better we can change. There's nothing wrong with that. People in sports do this all the time. In any department, business, you try out something. You try to play in football. Did it work? Okay, what went wrong? Let's change it up. Let's try something else. I think that's what she might be getting with. I think as I speak to you all and to myself, if you will, not in a crazy way. Remember, when I speak with myself, I probably am referencing a former version of myself, how it's changed mentally, just overall, really, how it's changed, what has come to play, what has come to pass, what is about to come to pass. I like that idea. You're referencing a past version of yourself in the present while one is speaking with themselves. I think that's a thing, right? Because we're growing and don't even really know it, but that's what that is. Instead of speaking with your current version of yourself, you're allowed to see deeper. That's a beta version, right? Or an alpha version, or whatever you want to call it, right? That was me 2.0. Now this is me 3.0, right? And then we keep going forward, always updating, always releasing our the next software update. I think it's all up here, of course. With silence, you start to speak with yourself instead of to yourself in the head. Okay, wait, that one already answered. Do you learn comfort in not just being alone, but being okay with feeling alone/lonely? This is, see, even she's not sure what word to use in the deepest sense of the meaning. I think there is some comfort to be found in being lonely and or alone, right? Regardless of whatever word you use, whether you conflate or differentiate, wrap that one right. It's a rhyme right there. Something you can ask people out when you meet people. Do you differentiate or do you conflate? Right. Let's see what kind of answer you get. Right, on a how did my friend put it? On a scale of -3 to +7, how would you rate your metacognitive abilities? Right, just ask a random question to just break the ice. Still waiting for a good answer on that one. But yes, come to terms with being alone/lonely. Yes, there's some comfort in that, because like I talked in a previous video, we always say silence is golden, but that golden has never really been unpacked. That gold piece is what you realize, what comes to fruition, what occurs to you. That's the golden piece. So yes, I would definitely encourage you coming to terms and comfort with being alone/lonely. Use that time as best you can. A few more questions. She watched both of the Yucatan Yauza one and the Medellin one. So I'm switching places here just for a minute. This one I made a couple years back. The intro, basically, she's kind of referencing what I said. The things that happen to us that make life worthwhile and exciting are the most unexpected things. Life can be a movie. So how to take those moments in stride instead of being taken off guard? That's her question. How can we do so? You have to be okay with getting out there and challenging yourself despite the unknowns. I'm accepting the unknowns when I travel, but I'm daring myself to go and find out what kind of unknowns will come to fruition for me, right? There's probably a bunch of unknowns that I won't get to experience if I leave, for example, right? But they're all out there. It's just a matter of you walking and bumping into them, and bam, they just manifest. They're just there floating around, waiting for anybody. It doesn't matter. I don't think fate and energetic fate is, prejudice. It's just waiting for anyone to bump into it and manifest this and start this reality that's been trying to make into a small movie, a short movie. There's a bunch of short movies out there. Forget going to the films, right? I don't want to sit there for an hour and a half. How about just some good short movies, right? Gets more variety that way. But yes, they do come as a surprise. There's so many that are surprising to me that I've come across. One of my favorite ones, and I hope my friend who's watching this or does watch this will know which moment I'm talking about in time when we were in Bogota. and we met up with all these other Colombians in some hostel. I don't even know where the hell it was, just off in some northern part of the city. And just different people there. And one of them we kind of labeled this biker sorceress or something like that, because she looked like a biker with hair, but she was very like voodoo-esque and witchcraftery, and she was talking to somebody. She was trying to put someone in their place where what they said. I forget what they even said. What stuck out though was she cast this energetic spell, and she like energetically told them something with the best positive intention possible, but then this arm movement and pulled out she did like this energetic exorcism, and then that's what me and my friend saw, and it was very interesting. Those are the moments that took me off guard. But it's not, there's just so much more meta data, more meta information, more meta energy in what that moment was. So please look for those moments and relish them. Let's see, what else is she saying? We don't have problems, we have limited knowledge. Okay, so this caught her attention, and I got this from my friend. Great one. I think it seems to work. It's a little deep if you don't know what it means. We don't have problems, we have limited knowledge. I would love to hear more about this. Okay, great. I thank my friend for this one. It's akin to when we have a change, we see it as negative, we just see something bad. Well, the change can come with good. It's a matter of changing the wording and seeing it differently after having changed the verbiage, right? Oh, I've got to change. We should start saying that. I don't have a problem. I have a change. Or I have a challenge, right? That's different. That we take those words on differently. Like, what's wrong, Tell me about what's going on. Well, I have this problem. No, we should say, no, well, I have this challenge, you see, and I have to blah. And then I think that might kickstart or spark a better, from the onset, spark something better from the onset in solving the issue by looking for the answer. Problem solving. Because if you just say, I've got a problem, well, you're forgetting the fact that early, like I mentioned, there's possibilities to it. I can stay sad and not look at the possibility I can get better at not being sad anymore, right? But we ignore it. So what we're doing with this is that we're ignoring the fact that this problem has an answer. We all always see as the problem, and then we're immediately stressed, right? We don't really think about it, at least not right away. We don't think about it. So if we call it a challenge instead of a problem, we might be like, how do I overcome this? How do I beat this challenge? That would be the first awareness bit, the first step in the awareness game of overcoming that problem. That's what I mean by that, because we don't know what the answer is to the problem. We just see the problem. The answer is, in fact, out there to almost any challenge. We're going to start calling it challenge from this point on, not even a problem. We're going to call it a challenge. Every challenge has a solution. Every answer has a question. And we need to go about it with awareness. Don't just focus on all the negatives of this challenge. And by that I mean, don't focus on the negatives of the challenge where they hold you back and prohibit you from doing anything. Focus on how they can be met, how can they be overcome. So problem solving, really, looking for the answer, because we can't really have problems because there's an answer. We just don't have questions. There are answers too. It's two parts. Can you imagine if conversation only involved questions? Well, no, there's also answers to questions, and this is just daily. Imagine if we walked around just asking questions. How are you? I'm doing well, don't you think? Yeah, I would say the same, wouldn't you? Like, can you imagine if we walked around just asking questions? It would be interesting, of course. It's a new experiment, social experiment, write it on my list. But we don't do that because to every X, there's a Z, right? To every question, there's an answer. To every challenge, there's a success, right? To every problem, there's a solution, X, Y, Z, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how I think we need to think about problem solving. We don't have problems, we have limited knowledge. We don't know how to go about finding it. We wouldn't know where to go. But if you're aware to the fact that you're not limited by this challenge, you'll grow from that. Let's see. It's all about beliefs, like speaking into the universe, positive manifestations. Okay, I get it. I did talk about manifesting things, I think, at some point, especially after I found Jesus. That's a different video. Yes, I would say that things can be manifested if you play the right game and you set things up in such a way with a goal in mind, of course. It's a big game of chess, right? You move all these pieces in the opening game to start making progression in the middle game in order to win the end game, right? That's basically the breakdown of chess in 3 parts. I think life may have something very similar. You can work it the same way. You want to do something. You want something to realize. You want a way of life. You want X. You want Y. You want Z. Start with the opening game. Look at all the things you'll need to do or have in place to make this a reality, right? And then once you have those, because in order for us to play chess, we need to have the pieces. That's step 1. Have all the things in place so that we can begin this journey towards this change you want or whatever it is that you're seeking. Chessboard. There you go. Chessboard is the game of life, right? All right, now we now have all the pieces. I have money, I have paperwork, I have a car, whatever it is that you're needing to make whatever come to fruition, right? Whatever you want to manifest. All right, the next step is the middle game, right? We start getting all these moving parts moving and working together to help nurture and germinate this end goal, this manifestation that you want, right? Once the middle game is passing, we're moving all these pieces together, all these bits of our lives, working harmoniously, preferably, towards the end goal, aka the end of chess. Yeah, you're going to have some losses, you're going to lose some things, something might not go, okay, I can't deal with this anymore, it's not working out. I thought it was going to help me in the goal, but it's not working out. Those are captured pieces. That's just the way it is, where there's loss, there's gain and there's loss. So that's how we can work about manifesting things. And believe me, before you know it, you will see that you have the power to manifest just about anything in your life, within reason, of course, right? But we don't realize this belief that this can happen. It doesn't happen. It's not there. Oh, I can't travel. It's not going to happen. Well, not with that belief. Of course it's not. I can't learn that. Well, not with that belief. You need to first ditch the belief, first of all, and then problem solve. I mean, remember again, we don't have things we can't do because of a belief. We just have to ditch the belief. In fact, I was talking to somebody here recently. They were talking about wanting to better their English. And I was like, well, I think that's a great idea, especially when we work in the service industry in a tourist place. You should definitely get that English down to a certain level where it would definitely help for tips. And I had to call him out. It was kind of ugly, but at the same time, there was some truth in it. Just I'm tailing off on what I just finished telling you. He said, how did he word it? It was a very interesting way of putting it, but he set himself up in a way where I just finished saying, we don't have problems, or we don't have ideas that we can't do something. We have beliefs that stand in the way, right? I can't learn that. Well, not with that belief. I can't do that, but not with that belief. I would like to learn X language, but I can't. Well, you won't because of that can't. That can't is a belief. And he was like, I would like to speak better English, but I get embarrassed. Well, so I don't. Well, then you're never going to if you're going to stay embarrassed. Me da pena hablar en español type of thing. I was like, well, do you see that the problem is right there? You just verbalize the problem. I get embarrassed, or I feel funky, or I don't like it, or well, then it's not going to happen, right? Ay, quisiera hablar español mejor o inglés mejor, pero me da pena. And I had to tell him, well, there's the problem. You need to ditch the pena. The pena would be the belief that I'm talking about, right? Holding on to that belief. If you hold on to it, then you're never going to learn it. You need to ditch it. And guess what? You will learn it. That was super critical. Like, okay, I would like to do that, but I don't have any money. Well, go and try to find a way to get it. That's the problem, right? You don't have money. While that might explain the conditions that exist, that doesn't mean those conditions have to continue to exist. You do have the power to manifest a change. Guess what? That change won't be negative. So we're working on changing the word problem and negative, and we're making it change. Change is better. It allows for both good and bad, and even sometimes then that bad might be just as good. So that's that's what I mean by manifestation, if you will. You just gave yourself the answer there. I would like to speak better English, but I'm embarrassed. Well, let's overcome embarrassment first, and guess what? Wow. But those two things are never linked. They were never being linked as the reason as to why you weren't going anywhere with whatever it is you're trying to do. I want to learn business, but I'm not smart. Well, you've already started. You're already lost, right? You may as well not have said, I want to learn. You may as well say, I want to learn, but I can't. Okay, and you won't. The problem is usually, the answer to the question is usually in the problem. In some situations, right? The answer to the problem, or the knowledge that you thought you were missing, wasn't even missing to begin with. It's right there. You just said what the problem is, but you didn't see it. So, at the beginning of this video, minute 1, I knew that awareness was going to be at the base of these problems, or the base of these questions. Awareness is just so basic. You almost can't escape it. You can almost reverse engineer the whole thought process and be like, oh, I should have been aware of this. Had I known about this, I'd have done better. I should be more aware and X, Y, Z. But we don't do that. We don't do that. Let's see. What places or situations would you say is best for self-improvement and self-reflection when traveling? What places? I think by this she means like actual locations. I don't know if I have an answer to that, but I would venture to say and venture to recommend go to places where the economic situation is lesser than yours. Drag yourself out of that comfort zone, even if it's different by language, money, economic situation, whatever. Just drag yourself out of it, and then give yourself a chance to swim in it and see how you feel. And I think small realizations will come to you because of the culture shock. They will, right? Like here in Mexico, they just come to you, which is why I put these in videos where they occur to me, so I make them. I think those would be the best ones. Travel with a friend. My friend says the best way to know someone is to travel with them, and I think that's so true. I would venture that he and I learned so much about each other that we wouldn't have otherwise learned had we not traveled together. You know what I mean? Because we're both pulled out of our home court advantage. If you remember that video, whatever that is, it's not even a thing. I just nullified the idea of home court advantage. If you watch that video, Yucatan one. I wish I could point to the screen somewhere and just say follow this link, but I don't know how to do that. So I'll figure it out. But I do want to point like magic and be like Jesus and just manifest shit. I would say take yourself out of what you're comfortable. Those would be the best places, and that's not even a specific place. Those kinds of places are the best ones to learn about yourself. I think the last one she has here, it says everything basically circles back to beliefs and manifestations. Correct. Manifestations, I think, are a byproduct of beliefs. But yes, I do think that everything starts with beliefs. Whether the belief is I can or I can't. It's the belief. It's like a computer. It's like a transistor. It allows the messages to pass. You know what I mean? That belief is kind of there, like two electro rods, and that belief is that median that allows that continuation. Actually, they're kind of like batteries. Batteries are not power; they help close a loop of power, right? So when you put it in between the metal prongs, it now completes the circuit because there's chemicals that allow the completion of the circuit, and then the light turns on, right? The flashlight goes on. That battery operated device now kicks on. Belief is very similar to that. While we want some batteries in some things, we probably don't want them in others necessarily, or that circuit, the electrical circuit, to be completed. So that's beliefs can be like batteries, and like any belief, like any battery, beliefs do lose their power. They do die out. They do need to be changed and replaced. I think the key is with awareness is, do I really need to replace this one? Can I be okay without it? I think that's so key. It is so key in learning. Do I really need to? All right. That was a good one. I hope I answered some questions that you all had, whatever you were thinking. But so from Mexico, it's beautiful outside, by the way. From Mexico, have a good time. I'll be back again. Bye.